Yo, what's going on guys? Hanging Hunt Outdoors here. My name is Dimitri, back with another video. In today's video, we're gonna be going over how to sight in your bow. This is going to apply for sliding sights and fixed pin sights. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's show you how. My bow is already sighted in pretty well, so I'm going to go ahead and take it out of sight. So if you guys are doing this at home, you can go ahead and go along to me. I'm just gonna bump that out like crazy. And then I'm going to go ahead and actually loosen up the adjustment over here and screw up my sight a little bit just so I can go through with you guys. I bumped the elevation and I bumped the windage so we can go ahead and get this thing dialed back in. All right guys, I got a beanie to keep my dome warm because it is a little chilly out today. It's one of those days where the grass is like crunchy. I don't know if you know what I mean by that. But now I can keep my ears warm and shoot at the same time. We're moving up. All right, so let's go ahead and set up the target cam down there and show you guys how I like to tape up the target and basically make like a plus sign. I'm gonna go down there, I'll show you. I'll be right back. All right guys, I got a pretty good angle of the target going on here. Basically what I'm going to do, cold tape. All right guys, so round two, this tape blows. We're basically just going to make a plus on the target. Why is this tape so bad? There we go. All right guys, so cold tape, not fun. We're basically just going to make a, we're gonna take our tape and we're gonna make a cross on the target. Now, in an ideal world, I would have a little level, like a 2-foot level, and I would make sure that this is perfectly level, the vertical one and the horizontal one, and make sure that they're both intersecting and that they were perfectly level. But unfortunately, I do not have a level out here with me today to accomplish that, but that's all right. I'm just gonna make a cross just like this, nice and big. Stick that to the target. And now we're gonna back up to 20 yards and we're going to take shots at this thing and show you if your arrows are impacting in a certain quadrant, what to do, as well as if you got one arrow here, if you got one arrow here and you got one arrow down here, you're full of shit. And that's where the FOS technique comes in. If you're all over the place on this thing, this is gonna tell you if you're telling the truth to yourself or not. If you're all over the place, you reshoot. If you're all in one quadrant, all in one section, that's when you move your sight over and down, because you know that that is where your bow is actually shooting. If your group is all over the place on this thing and you don't know where you're impacting, how are you gonna move your sight to make a proper, accurate adjustment? You can't. So that's why we do it this way. Let's go ahead back up to 20 yards, get the real camera rolling, and shoot this thing. 20 yards on the nose. Hopefully I don't hit my camera down there, my phone, because that would be expensive. Let's go ahead and take a shot. Now when we're sighting in this way, we do have to keep in mind, we need to take at least 3 shots. We need a 3 arrow group. Just because we're gonna go ahead and shoot 5. See where those went? All right, so as you can see, we were pretty consistent there, all in the lower right quadrant, but because I have this one flyer over here and up top, I'm going to do a reshoot, see if we can really stack them in right here, if that's where the bow wants to shoot, and then we'll go ahead and adjust the sight from there, and I'll show you guys what to do. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of group I like to see. So we're not that far right, but we're definitely low.
So you're low?
All right guys, so we were a couple of clicks to the right and definitely low. I'm gonna go ahead and worry about my windage first. You always wanna follow the arrow. So if the arrow is impacting right compared to where you're aiming, you wanna move your sight over to the right. I'm gonna let my hands warm up a little bit and then we're gonna shoot again. I have been shooting for a while. I know that I'm going to be fairly consistent and accurate where I'm shooting at 20 yards. So right now I can tell that that's left. So instead of shooting 5, now if you are or do have like a bigger group and you're one on one side, one on the other, definitely go ahead and shoot the 5 or just pull them and reshoot and make sure that you have a nice consistent small group in that quadrant. Now I have a lower left quadrant. I moved it just a smidge too much. So now I'm going to follow the arrow. I'm going to push this out to the left. Not quite sure where that one went. Shoot one more and then see whether they're impacting. All right, that's 4 arrows now impacting each other. Let's go see where that went. I really need a foam target, guys. Oh, really need a foam target, guys. Oh. All right, let's go reshoot. Let's make this quick. Just went another 4 clicks to the left. Hopefully that's not too much. Let's go see where that went. I'm only gonna take 1 shot. I know that if that's where the arrow's going, that's where the arrow's going. So let's go see, just to speed up the process. It's cold out here. All right, we've got our windage dialed in. That is dead center of the tape. So we got our windage figured out. Now, like I was saying, if this is you guys and you have the same kind of sight, you're gonna move your whole sight block over to get the windage. You're gonna move, whether that's this thing, whether that's your scope barrel on a target sight, whether that's the whole sight housing on a fixed pin sight. Now, fixed pin, you're gonna be using your top pin for the 20 yard, but we're not fixing the elevation right now. So don't worry about that. Just make sure that your windage, whether you're high above the X or low, make sure that your windage is vertically on that line, and that's gonna really help you guys out. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the elevation. This is Future Dimitri talking here. I'm an idiot, I didn't mention this in the beginning of the video. Make sure if you're sighting in the slider sight right now that the sight is all the way maxed out to the very highest point that it can go, and sight your 20 in off of that. You might have to adjust your sight rail depending on what sight it is, up and down on the bar that's going into your bow, depending on what kind of sight it is, because that's how you make that adjustment. But make sure that your sight is all the way up, and then you can go ahead and sight in your 20. I don't know why I didn't think to say that in the beginning. So I know that I've been about 2 inches low the entire time shooting here. So I'm gonna go ahead and bump my sight down and follow the arrow. Now what's really nice about this HHA sight is that in doing this, I don't have to go and readjust my second axis. A lot of sights on the market, let me fix this real quick. A lot of sights on the market will require you to readjust your axes once you get sighted in. So these screws right here adjust the sight block, and then these screws right here adjust the second axis. And because it's like a dovetailed sight block here, it goes to the same place every time, no matter where you are on the bar. So that's a really cool feature of the HHA sight. I absolutely love this thing. So if you're using a fixed pin sight, you're moving the entire block right now to get your 20 yard pin set. Whether you want to move it up, if you want to move the pin up in the housing so you get a little bit more distance, so that if you have to spread out your bottom pins more, you can do that. You can move like your 20 yard pin higher up in the housing, because that's adjustable. Move your 20 yard pin maybe middle of the housing or a little higher than middle of the housing, and then move your the whole sight block housing, the whole scope, move that up and down to get that 20 yard pin set, and that'll help you guys out. You might be able to get a little bit more distance out of your pins that way. Now, if you're doing this at home and you're not totally confident with just taking 2 shots, again, take a group. There's nothing wrong with that. Shoot a 3 or 4 or 5 arrow group. All right, let's go see where those 2 arrows went. All right, guys, so it's a little dark. I apologize. So as you can see, my 20 is very, very close. I'm not gonna say that it's absolutely perfect, but I think it's just user error. It is so cold out, I cannot hold steady on that thing and execute a proper shot. But I will go ahead and explain to you what I would do if I have a fixed pin sight now. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to back up to 30, then 40, then 50, then 60 yards, depending on how many pins my fixed pin sight has. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just move my pin down now because my windage is set. My 20-yard pin is set with moving the scope housing. And now anything, like all of my yardages farther than that are gonna be adjusted with pins. Just slowly move my pins further down. So now let me go ahead and give you a brief demonstration or explanation on how to make your sight tapes now with a sliding sight. So what you're gonna do is, now that you have your 20-yard mark, you're gonna have a blank sight tape on this roller here on the bar of your sight. It should be a blank sight tape. If you don't have a blank sight tape on there, put a blank sight tape on there. You're gonna make a mark where your 20 is with that top pin, with the indicator on your sight here. You're going to make a mark where that is on the 20. And then you're going to go ahead and slowly work your way back, shooting to about, I would say, 80. Now, if you're a new shooter, that's gonna be really tough. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that. It's gonna be hard to get there. If you're a new shooter, maybe 50 yards. If you're a more experienced shooter, work your way out to 80 or 90 or even 100 yards if your archery range allows it. Once you get there and you're dialed in, you're making consistent hits at that distance, go ahead and make a mark. And then you're going to use those 2 marks and cross-reference them to a existing sight tape. If you're using like the little booklet that comes with your sight, go ahead and use those 2 marks on the 20 and the 100, and if they line up, that's going to be very close to a perfect sight tape for your bow. But if you're going to use a sight like Archer's Advantage or Precision Cut, or just one of those softwares that allow you to print off your own sight tapes, then I would recommend using a caliper, measuring it out, and that's how you would do that in those sight systems. They all have different instructions. Go along to their instructions if you're making your own sight tape. But that is the way that you sight in your sight. That is the FOS, or the full of shit technique. It works very well. It doesn't take too many arrows. You're not going to burn yourself out sighting in your bow this way, and it just makes it easy and consistent. If you're high left, you follow the arrow high left. If you're low right, you follow the arrow low right, etc. So that is how I like to sight my bows in. I do this with every single bow that I have, every single bow that I've gotten in the past. That's how I sight it in, and it works pretty well for me. So hope this helped you guys out. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you get subscribed. We'll catch you in the next one. Ciao, guys.